Tidbits from EA Fusion. I had many adventures and misadventures at Electronic Arts Canada in its Fusion group. Here are a few of those experiences. One year while working for EAC, Fusion's division, when we were finishing FIFA for release, the game had failed repeatedly to pass the manufacturer's quality verification steps. The game was buggy, and it crashed, and it had visual glitches, and it just simply did not hold a consistent frame rate for play, which meant the game would sometimes jerk or might feel choppy a little bit in control and animation. Bluntly, FIFA was bad. In my role as Chief Technology Officer, CTO, I could only advise on product quality and release. My role included making sure a game was finished, though, and hit the quality bar target. But as things looked dire during development, features had to be cut. People had to be added to the team, and there had to be some revisions to the design just to regain the lost time and have some opportunity to at least polish the game a little bit. The producers in charge of the product release date and its quality refused to cut any features, demanding that they were all critical, and they could not change the date because FIFA had retailer and advertising commitments. Not to mention, it had to coincide with the real-world FIFA sport and its tournaments. Missing FIFA's release would be very bad for people and the company, and therefore, people would be fired if it missed its dates. Doing all that we could to fix FIFA and tune it and polish it beyond the 11th hour, right up to the proverbial midnight hour of failure, is what we did. We were so close that we had no time to verify the last fixes and efforts to polish the game. I thought that we should inform the manufacturer that we were close and ask them to work with us to double down on testing and still make the time and deadlines. But EA producers feared tilting their hand of potentially a bad FIFA would make them more scrutinized and therefore put the very approval to release in jeopardy. Well, I declared, "You are riding dirty," like the performer Chameleonaire's song Ridin' Dirty. I went throughout the FIFA team and producers and played the song as I decreed it was a dangerous game to willfully submit a game that has not been tested to quality for release, to the manufacturer for final approval, to be built and sold to the public. It felt risky, and it carried the threat of hurting the game reputation and the consumer experience, not to mention EA's own reputation. But the producers did not care. The threat of failure and losing their jobs exceeded the risk to the consumers and to Electronic Arts. To them, well, it did work out. The game proved to be good, and those last fixes did save the day. We rode dirty and got away with it. It was a bad lesson for the producers, as they would cite FIFA Ridin' Dirty as a moniker to justify risky behavior in the future. While in EA Fusion, we developed another game called EA Sports Active, which was an interactive exercise and workout fitness game on the Nintendo Wii. The first version of EA Sports Active included a neoprene holster that held Nintendo's motion sensor controller, while the player held another controller in their hand. By having motion tracking on their hip leg and in their hand, the gamer was able to determine what they were doing. Our game could likewise determine what motions were going on based on the activity and acceleration from the hand and from the hip. The neoprene EA Sports Active holster worked quite well, but it could be cheated by clever players. Of course, they were only cheating themselves and their fitness. But to extend the marketing position, the game was holistic, and so we had to offer all sorts of exercise options. We even packed in a resistance exercise strap. EA Sports Active was a runaway hit for our business unit, and consequently we were given a lot more money and latitude to innovate and create sequels, derivations, and entirely new games. EA Fusion was a proven innovator of original games and experiences within Electronic Arts. Following the success of EA Sports Active, we wanted to capitalize on the consumer excitement, but felt the Nintendo controller was not accurate enough to differentiate against the deluge of copycat games coming out to steal our thunder. We conceived to build our own high-precision motion controller and pack it in with the next EA Sports Active. We hired a hardware design expert consultant to guide us through the process of creating original Nintendo Wii, Xbox, and PlayStation game controllers that were integrated motion-controlled tracking systems. We also wanted to introduce tracking heart rate and pulse. Although there is a lot of detail and tales behind the creation of the hardware that spans adventures in Hong Kong, being offered bug cuisine for meals, as in insects, that were supposedly sanitary but full of protein and nutrition. Well, ick. Worker dormitories provided to workers, where they provided meals to support multi-month work shifts in fascist-like hyper-subordinate controlled environments. The most extreme incident was the hardware consultant becoming excessively drunk once in his hotel. And, well, he decided to rest in the lobby to sober up rather than returning to his room. However, he was offered more drinks as he was sobering up, and so he became more and more inebriated. He may well have become so lost to the sauce that he could not have walked to his room anymore. The hotel security came to him and directed him to return to his room, or be arrested immediately and detained in a drunk tank, and very likely fined for his embarrassing public behavior. The consultant was in no shape to argue and staggered to get to his room with the aid of the hotel staff. Hong Kong drama there was ended and resolved. Yes, Hong Kong offered an extremely different lifestyle from what we were accustomed to. EA Sports Active was so successful that Electronic Arts was looking for as many ways to get the word out about the game's value as entertainment and a tool for health and exercise. The team reached out to Guinness Book's World Records and confirmed if Electronic Arts could get the most staff on a sports field exercising to a fitness game, then we would have a world record of the most people exercising to a digital workout. Period. Well, let's fast forward to the event. Yes, we did achieve the world record. We had the most people exercising to a digital workout, and we had the most people exercising to a video game. Technically 2 world records. As an aside, many game developers spend a lot of time in the office and at home working on their games because they love to make games. So much so that it is their career and their personal passion hobby. Marketing provided EA Sports Active t-shirts for the Guinness Book experience, so everybody looked united and not ragtag in the video and photos that would record the event. But it was a sight for many to see. So many people on the sports field exercising to the video game. But the vision of game developers exercising was an entirely different visual than marketing imagined. The marketing team had not fully appreciated the body shapes of game developers. They ordered a typical mix of shirt sizes from extra smalls to even some triple extra large. They felt they had a wide range of sizes so everyone would be covered, literally by matching logoed clothing and sizes. Well, game developers of the era were generally overweight and out of shape. There were not enough big t-shirts to go around because there were far more big people than there were medium and small people. And so marketing's estimate of shirt count and distribution per size was quite wrong. Consequently, the developers stuffed themselves in pride into the provided t-shirts despite their being far too small. Because again, they wanted to celebrate EA Sports Active, and they wanted to attain the world record, and they wanted to look unified. But the shirts were so tight they looked like giant human burritos. Staff were merciless, as if on a school ground play yard. They joked and mocked and body shamed their own colleagues. It seemed that many people thought ribbing others for their appearance was entertaining. But it did not go well with numerous hurt feelings and tainted relationships. Their passion for their creation and game drove them to embarrassing photo op moments as burrito developers. There were hundreds of human burritos on the field. It was such a sight that EA did not evangelize the event much beyond the informational fact that the game had the world record. The images of the world record were useful from a distant whole field view where individual burritos were less obvious. Another EA Canada event was a studio-wide summer party. Some more recognized and influential studio executives were asked if they would participate in an iced dunk tank venue for staff to throw baseballs at targets. Successful hits would dunk the executive into the water filled with ice. They asked if I would participate. I agreed. I went to my iced dunk tank scheduled event. While approaching the dunk tank, a stray hard baseball struck me in the forehead and knocked me unconscious. Knockout. Lights out for me. I collapsed to the ground after a sudden sound bang. I came to shortly afterwards with people all around me. Quickly, company medical trained staff were tending to me. My head was swollen huge with red and purple discoloration, and it hurt like heck. Yeah, even a summer company party resulted in my being knocked unconscious, knocked out. That felt like hell difficulty to me. For note, after about 15 minutes or so, I demanded and pushed forward to still do the iced dunk tank. With my swollen purple, bruised head and raging headache, I was dropped into the icy water more times than I can recall. Ironically, everyone knew I was up for being dunked because everyone was talking about how crazy I must be to still do the dunk tank after being so severely injured. I suppose people wanted to justify my mad dunk tank misadventure and wound. But what wound matters to the body of a knight-errant, as Cervantes wrote? You know, this might be a good time to note some of EA Canada's unusual facilities relative to the video game industry, much less other companies in general. EA Canada had a dedicated sports field for soccer, track, field, and so much. They had 2 movie theaters, one as large as 175 seats. I believe the other was over 64 seats. They had a huge underground gym. They had the world's largest motion capture studio. And they had a massive cafeteria. And their campus had both underground, street level, and above ground catwalks to connect its buildings. The only company that I have seen that had more insane facilities was Microsoft in Washington, Seattle, Redmond, where they had over 50,000 employees. One weekend during a visit I was fortunate to have my daughters with me in Canada, and so we decided to go into my work at Electronic Arts. I had hoped to both impress them and inspire them to pursue their own futures in education and jobs in high technology, or maybe even entertainment, or at least management in some large corporation. I explained to them that it can be hard to succeed on your own without huge cash reserves and the coffers to invest in risky, big ideas. And without that, it can be smart to work for a big company that had those resources. They would give you huge upward mobility and income opportunity. I wanted them to know that you can work for others or yourself, and both can make sense based on what you're hoping to achieve. Well, we entered the building from its rear underground entrance, through its portcullis-like gate raising up as we descended into the multi-level maze beneath Electronic Arts' 1,000-plus person office complex. My daughters were appropriately impressed with the massive multi-story glass buildings with visible sky catwalks between the complex structures. We parked and ascended by elevator into what EA called Phase 2 because it had been built much later, after its first main building and motion capture studio had been built. As a tangent, EA Canada's motion capture studio was the biggest in the world at the time. It supported facial capture, full body capture, and even circus acrobatics with cranes and ropes and pulleys and all sorts of wild equipment. They had trouble keeping it utilized, and eventually decided to rent it out to third parties to offset its operating costs and overhead. EA MoCap was its own business, but EA Games always had priority for motion capture.